Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a future so vast, so complex, that its entire course is charted by mathematics, leading to a new galactic empire.
Right. A grand plan.
But what if that meticulously crafted plan gets completely derailed by just one single unpredictable individual?
Hmm.
And what if the solution to that problem involves layers upon layers of deception, where even the saviors are basically unwitting pawns in a cosmic chess game?
Yeah, that's pretty much the heart of it. That's the mind-bending journey we're embarking on today.
Diving into a future shaped by unseen architects and surprising truths hidden right there in plain sight.
Indeed. We're exploring a narrative where the fate of an entire galaxy hangs in the balance, a story carefully guided, by two distinct entities.
Harry Seldon's creations.
Exactly. His first foundation, built on the physical sciences out there on Terminus, and then the mysterious second foundation, founded on the power of the mind itself.
And our sources really highlight the dramatic confrontations, don't they? The stuff that threatens to shatter Seldon's grand design.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And ultimately reveal how one of the most significant moments in galactic history was, well, it was all an elaborate illusion, really, designed for a much larger purpose.
You'll hear about a mutant with, frankly, terrifying mental powers who defies all predictions.
Completely outside the math.
Brilliant scientists driven by really personal vendettas, and even a seemingly innocent 14-year-old girl who becomes this pivotal player, though maybe not in the way you might first think.
Her story is fascinating.
It's a story that will challenge everything you thought you knew about foresight, power, and that delicate line between intuition and just outright manipulation.
Definitely makes you question things.
So let's begin at the beginning with the brilliant mind of Harry Seldon. You might be familiar with his concept of psychohistory.
A cornerstone of this whole saga.
It's this groundbreaking mathematical science, right? Supposedly able to predict the general course of future events.
But not individuals. That's key.
Right. Not fortune-telling for specific people, but modeling the behavior of vast populations, like a cosmic weather forecast for whole civilizations.
That's a good analogy. Seldon used this to foresee a coming dark age, a really long one, like 30,000 years, and he devised this plan to shorten it to just 1,000.
A massive undertaking.
Huge. To achieve this, Seldon established two foundations. The first foundation was placed openly, way out on the planet Terminus. Their job: rebuild civilization using physical science, technology.
The engineers, the scientists?
Pretty much. But the second foundation, well, that was built on mental science, developing psychic abilities, social engineering, that sort of thing.
And its location was kept completely secret.
A profound secret. Its very existence known only to a tiny few. For centuries, the first foundation seemed to be doing great, apparently right on Seldon's schedule.
Following the plan.
Exactly. But this very predictability was about to be profoundly shaken.
And that shock came in the form of an anomaly. A single individual so unique he fell completely outside psychohistory's vast statistical net.
Because psychohistory works with large numbers, predicting trends.
Right, but it couldn't account for a singular, unprecedented variable: the Mule.
The game changer.
This mutant possessed this, well, almost unimaginable ability to mold men's emotions and shape their minds.
And his overwhelming mental power was even more striking because it contrasted so sharply with his physical weakness. He was described as frail, almost.
Yeah, and that weakness fueled this deep desire for revenge against a humanity he felt alienated from, like he was outside looking in.
Understandable in a tragic way. The Mule absolutely steamrolled the first foundation. He conquered it swiftly, shattering parts of Seldon's carefully laid plan.
But his ultimate goal wasn't just physical conquest, was it?
No, not at all. It was to solidify his dominion by finding and neutralizing the second foundation. He desperately sought it out.
Bringing in smart people to help?
Right, even bringing in brilliant minds. One was Abeling Mess, a Foundation psychologist. The Mule, mentally stimulated Mess, pushed his intellect, and he almost pinpointed the second foundation's location.
Almost. That's a critical moment, isn't it? Miss was fortuitously killed just seconds before he could reveal it.
Fortuitously is putting it mildly.
This near miss haunted the Mule so deeply, it actually caused him to halt his galactic expansion for 5 long years.
5 years. That brief reprieve, ironically, was maybe the first real sign that unseen forces were already at play, guiding events from the shadows.
That's a sharp observation. The Mule, for all his immense power, soon realized a critical flaw in his own methods.
Which was?
His converted loyalists, those whose minds he had, reshaped, they lacked critical initiative, ingenuity.
The downside of absolute control.
Exactly. Their loyalty was absolute, sure, but their drive and independent thought were completely stifled. He needed unconverted minds that still had ambition, the ability to think freely, to continue his search effectively.
So he couldn't just rely on mind control alone. Interesting.
So this led to a new, calculated strategy. He sent 2 men on a mission to find the second foundation. Han Pritchard, a loyal converted general.
The safe bet.
And Bale Chanis, ambitious, quick-witted, and crucially unconverted. A young man on the rise. The Mule believed Chanis's personal ambition would provide that unforced drive he needed.
A calculated risk. Using ambition as a tool.
And in a classic display of his, manipulative and deeply paranoid nature, the Mule secretly implanted a hypertracer on their ship to follow them.
Of course he did. Shows his profound distrust, doesn't it? Not just of others, but even of his own methods, the very mental influence he wielded. He couldn't fully trust Chanis's ambition without a physical backup.
So Chanis sets off. And being an exceptionally analytical mind, he rejects just randomly searching the galaxy.
Makes sense. Too big.
He develops a theory. The second foundation must be a world that ruled by mental skills but maybe physically less advanced, operating in what he called the dry crumbs of the broken galactic empire.
Looking for subtlety, not overt power.
Exactly. He used a galactic mapping device, the lens, to zero in on potential locations.
And this is where his deductions take a very specific and seemingly brilliant turn. Chanis connected Star's End, this sort of poetic phrase from Seldon's records, to a region called the Mouth in a nebula.
Okay.
And from a specific Trantorian orientation, this mouth pointed to a lone star, to Zenda.
To Zenda. What was special about it?
It was an oligarchy, ruled a bunch of planets, wasn't particularly scientifically advanced, had this long tradition of neutrality, but its administration seemed remarkably efficient.
How so?
It subtly maintained control over its subject populations, who were described as both happy but also somehow terrified, through what looked like psychological means, not physical force.
Wow. That fits Chanis's theory perfectly.
It really did. And in an unexpected, almost impulsive leap, Chanis launched the ship straight to Tazenda, immediately. He claimed the danger of his knowledge being discovered by Second Foundation agents elsewhere was too great.
It felt like a bold, independent move at the time.
Very much so. Meanwhile, Pritchard, the converted general, he's experiencing this profound internal conflict.
Because of the conversion.
Yes. Despite his absolute loyalty, that deep mental repatterning that fundamentally reshapes your will, your desires, he felt this strange lassitude, a loss of initiative, self-reliance.
He wasn't himself anymore.
He couldn't even recall his emotions before conversion, only the intellectual fact that he once tried to kill the Mule. It really raises critical questions about free will under that kind of mental control.
Definitely.
And then, when they encountered the governor of Rossum, one of Tazenda's subject worlds, the governor just casually says he expected them.
Chilling.
Pritchard was deeply disturbed. He feared his mind might be handled again without him even knowing, remembering there was no pain, no sensation during his initial conversion.
That fear of unseen manipulation is just palpable, isn't it? And it all comes crashing down in this dramatic confrontation.
The Mule shows up.
The Mule himself swoops in, appearing right there in Rossum, reveals he followed them with the hypertracer, he exposes Chanis's actions, claims he was just a decoy, but then the test.
Yes, the test.
He seizes Chanis's mind, inflicts grief, pain, and for just a tiny instant, Chanis's mind resists.
Oh, flicker.
That tiny flicker confirms it for the Mule. Chanis also possessed mental control, a power he had deliberately hidden.
And this is where the genius, the real intricate planning of the Second Foundation's countermeasures truly begins to unfold.
Because Chanis then, seemingly under duress, confesses, right? Admits to being a Second Foundationer.
He does. He explains their purpose as guardians of Seldon's plan, and frames the Mule himself as just a premature disruption they needed to manage, not simply destroy.
Feeding the Mule's ego, almost.
Perhaps. But the Mule, fueled by his own rage and, let's face it, psychopathic paranoia, a factor the Second Foundation had actually underestimated slightly, he unleashes his fleet on Tazenda.
Destroys it completely.
Utterly. Convinced he's finally wiped out the Second Foundation. But the deception wasn't over yet.
No, because under severe torture, Chanis breaks again.
And it reveals that Rossum, The quiet subject world, not Tzenda, was the actual Second Foundation headquarters.
Leading the mule right to it.
Believing his true enemy was finally within his grasp, the Mule orders the bombardment of Rossum, planning to destroy it within 6 hours. Total annihilation.
But just as Channis is about to be destroyed,
A figure emerges. The first speaker. This individual, we later learn is Preem Palver, is the highly specialized intellectual and emotional leader guiding the Second Foundation's grand strategy.
the mastermind arrives.
And the first speaker immediately reveals the Mule's own weaknesses, his physical shortcomings, his sterility as a mutant, that profound inferiority complex driving him. These were key psychological vulnerabilities the Second Foundation had identified and exploited.
And here's the absolute stunner, the truth behind all of it. The whole chase, Tzenda, Rossum.
It was all part of an elaborate plan. Tzenda was allowed to be destroyed, a calculated decoy. Rossum, which was populated by Second Foundationers pretending to be simple elders, was evacuated earlier to Calgon to prepare for a countermove.
Leaving only Channis and the first speaker as bait.
Exactly. The Mule was then mentally repatterned by the first speaker. He kept his mental powers, kept his empire even, but his burning desire, his obsession to find the Second Foundation, completely erased.
Turned into a man of peace.
Essentially, yes. Seldon's plan was seemingly back on track, and the First Foundation, they were none the wiser. They just thought the Mule was this, strange force of nature that had mysteriously burned itself out.
Wow, okay, so that's one massive layer of deception peeled back. But it doesn't end there, does it?
Not by a long shot. This brings us to a whole new layer of the story. While the Second Foundation was busy orchestrating the Mule's quiet retirement, the First Foundation itself wasn't just sitting around.
They started their own hunt.
They embarked on their own desperate hunt for this unseen enemy. Ironically, driven by this deep sense of their own autonomy, their own power, yet guided every step of the way by the very forces they sought to expose.
And leading this charge was Dr. Corin Darrell, an electroneurologist.
A man consumed by a personal vendetta. His wife's death, connected indirectly to the Mule's era, fueled his fierce determination to fight the unseen enemy he believed controlled destiny, the Second Foundation.
He was convinced there was an insidious, invisible force manipulating things.
He wasn't alone in his suspicions either. His colleague, a Dr. Kleiss, had discovered these things called tamper plateaus in brainwave patterns.
Tamper plateaus? What are those?
Subtle, unnatural flatlining or weird shifts in brain activity that indicated external mental interference, like someone had been adjusting things.
Mental fingerprints.
A good way to put it. These findings suggested widespread mental manipulation. Kleiss's student, Peleus Anther, brought these really alarming findings to Darrell and others, suspecting Second Foundation infiltration, particularly among influential people.
So this suspicion was growing within the First Foundation.
Definitely. To gather more information, they dispatched Homir Munn, a librarian, and an expert on the Mule era.
Librarian.
Sent to the Mule's old palace on Calgon, which had become a sort of shrine. His mission: search the Mule's extensive records for any clues, anything about the Second Foundation.
Makes sense. Go to the source.
And here's where things get interesting again. Arcadia Darrell, Dr. Darrell's 14-year-old daughter, enters the picture.
The teenager we mentioned earlier.
That's her, described as a ferocious little romantic, totally obsessed with spy stories and espionage. She overhears their plans and, much to everyone's shock and consternation, stows away on Munn's ship.
Oh boy, a complication.
You might think her presence was just accidental, a spanner in the works. However, her intuition, which was fueled by hero worship of her grandmother Beta Darrell, who famously stopped the Mule, was actually guiding events.
Wait, her intuition guided events? How?
Well, she cleverly leverages Lady Callia Lord Stetton's mistress on Calgon, who was, surprise, surprise, secretly a Second Foundation agent, to help Munn get access to the palace records. And then she orchestrates her own seemingly desperate escape to Trantor.
So even the seemingly accidental, impulsive actions of a precocious teenager were actually part of a larger, meticulously crafted script.
Precisely. Meanwhile, back on Calgon, the new leader, Lord Stetton, the first citizen, decides he wants to be the next Mule. Big shoes to fill.
Uh-oh.
He declares war on the First Foundation. He genuinely believes Seldon's plan is broken, kaput, and that he can establish a new empire.
How did that go for him?
The Foundation, while they took some initial losses, ultimately triumphed, partly through superior tactics, like a clever hyperspace trap.
Good old Foundation ingenuity.
But crucially, through boosted morale. They had this profound, almost religious belief in the Second Foundation's protection, even though they couldn't see it.
Yeah.
They believed they had unseen guardians.
A belief as a weapon.
Contrasting sharply with Callaghan's undermined morale, they truly believed they had won through their own skill and bravery, a belief that was, shall we say, subtly encouraged.
Okay, so the war ends, the Foundation wins. Munn, the librarian, comes back.
Yes, Homer Munn returns with his triumphant declaration. The Mule's extensive records prove there is no Second Foundation.
What? After all that?
He dismisses the Tamper Plateaus as just misunderstanding primitive brain scanning tech and claims the Mule just died of natural causes. The First Foundation breathes a collective sigh of relief. They feel safe, secure in their perceived victory.
But Anther, Kleiss' student, he wasn't buying it.
Not for a second. Anther vehemently disagreed. He pointed straight at Munn's drastically changed personality, suddenly fluent, super confident, no stutter anymore, as clear proof of recent mental manipulation.
The Tamper Plateaus were real.
Anther insisted the Second Foundation must be on Callaghan, hiding in plain sight among the conquered. A cunning move, he thought, to remain undetected.
But Dr. Darrell, Arcadia's father, he had his own theory brewing, didn't he?
He did. Spurred by that cryptic message from Arcadia, a circle has no end. He starts rethinking the other end of the galaxy.
How so?
From the First Foundation's perspective, way out on Terminus at the Galactic Rim, what's the other end of a circle?
It leads right back to where you started.
Exactly. His stunning conclusion. The Second Foundation must be on Terminus itself, hiding right under their noses, the most obvious place, therefore the least suspicious. Brilliant deduction, he thought.
So he thinks he's found them. What does he do?
Convinced he's finally unmasked the enemy, Darrell develops a counterweapon, the mental static device.
Sounds ominous.
It was an electromagnetic field generator that caused unendurable pain, like a blinding psychic noise, specifically to those with developed mental powers. A blinding light for the unseen enemy.
And he uses it.
Oh, yes. Under the device's influence, Anther, the suspicious student, confesses, admits to being a Second Foundationer, confirms their bases on Terminus, reveals their elaborate plan, including orchestrating the Calganian War as a big distraction.
Confirmation. Darrell must have felt vindicated.
Absolutely. He even tested his own daughter, Arcadia, found her brainwaves perfectly normal, which completely convinced him he had truly trapped the Second Foundation. He believed he had won. Game over.
But, oh, I have a feeling the rabbit hole goes even deeper. This is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Revealing the ultimate chilling truth behind absolutely everything we've just discussed.
Exactly. Because the first speaker, Preem Pelver, who, remember, was posing as Arcadia's kindly adoptive papa back on Trantor all that time, revealed the final layer. The ultimate truth.
Okay, lay it on us.
The discovery and destruction of the Second Foundation on Terminus. It was colossal, meticulously planned bluff, orchestrated with 50 Second Foundationers who volunteered to be exposed and captured as martyrs.
50 martyrs just to sell the lie.
Their sacrifice was deemed necessary to make the deception absolutely convincing to someone like Darrell.
And Arcadia's role? All her intuition, her stowing away?
It wasn't unwitting, it wasn't luck. She was actively controlled, subtly guided from infancy on Trantor. Her precocious and intelligent personality was meticulously developed specifically for this mission. Her intuition, entirely engineered. Her actions were guided at every single turn.
Well, that's terrifying.
It is. And the phrase, the other end of the galaxy. It was never meant to be physical distance. It was always a social interpretation.
Social? How?
Think about it. The First Foundation, on Terminus, was way out on the periphery, where the old Galactic Empire was weakest in terms of civilization, culture.
Okay.
The Second Foundation, therefore, was located at the social opposite Trantor, the former imperial capital. Seldon's original base of operations, a world steeped in culture, knowledge, data archives, the place where the old empire's influence was strongest, longest.
Trantor was Star's End.
For Seldon, yes. A poetic image for the end of the old imperial order, but also the hidden genesis of the new order guided by Mentalics. The huge imperial library, practically untouched in Trantor's ruins after the sack, was sitting there like a giant, obvious clue, yet it was overlooked precisely because it was so central, so obvious.
Hidden in plain sight again.
And even Ibling Miss's death, the one the Mule regretted so much, that was orchestrated right there on Trantor by the Second Foundation to prevent him revealing Trantor as the true location. Beta Darrell's heroic act of stopping Miss was actually a planned, guided part of this grand design.
So the Mule's repatterning worked. The first foundation, now believing it had eliminated the second foundation on Terminus, saw itself as the absolute master of the galaxy.
Completely secure in their victory, which eliminated any perceived need for them to develop their own mental sciences.
Leaving the field clear for the second foundation.
Exactly. That mental static device Daryl was so proud of, it would become sterile, useless, without a perceived threat to use it on. This allowed the First Foundation's nascent mental science efforts to just atrophy, wither away, pushing them firmly back onto Seldon's intended path, focusing only on physical science.
While the second foundation,
Still hidden safely on Trantor, continued to subtly guide Seldon's plan, unseen, unheard for centuries to come. Every seemingly independent action by the First Foundation, every discovery, every crisis overcome, was just another carefully placed signpost on a path laid out long ago.
wow. So, what does this all mean for us, thinking about this story? The First Foundation believed they had won. They thought they'd achieved autonomy, were on the path to their own empire, all thanks to their own ingenuity and triumph over this unseen enemy.
They felt totally in control.
But in reality, their entire journey, every step, was a carefully choreographed dance, guided by the very entity they believed they had finally defeated. It's just a staggering testament to the power of psychological manipulation on a galactic scale.
It really is. Where even your most confident discoveries are merely carefully placed signposts, leading you exactly where someone else wants you to go.
It raises such an important question for all of us, doesn't it? In our world, just inundated with information, where that line between truth and, engineered perception can be incredibly thin. How do you truly know if you're making your own choices?
Or if you're just part of a larger unseen plan. This narrative really highlights the profound difference between overt physical power, like fleets and armies, and the subtle, pervasive influence of mental or psychological control,
Yeah, true power often operates from the shadows.
making its subjects believe they are free, completely free, while subtly directing their every step, their every belief. What does it even mean to be well-informed if even your most confident aha moments, your discoveries, are just pieces someone else put there for you to find?
That's a heavy thought. So next time you feel that surge of certainty or experience a big aha moment, maybe just pause and consider this. Is it genuine insight? Or could it be a perfectly placed piece of a much grander design?
Something to definitely chew on.